Hello and welcome, everyone. Today is June 10th, 2025, and we are here focused on a digital world town hall meeting. We have a live guest audience here with us from all around the world. We're grateful for their continued attendance and involvement. We will have Q&A sessions that will follow basically in a weekly update on some of the progress that's happened this last week. We're grateful for those that are here that help from a moderation standpoint, especially some of the things that are there was a lot of moderation last week, but just grateful for the involvement and consistency. Adam and Wally and many others, thank you for being you and for being here. This is a private membership association. For some that are not aware, that is a very key part of the digital world and some things that we'll be talking about later on today. Some of the things we may discuss might be forward-looking comments, and that also needs to be disclosed. For those that are not aware, we basically are helping to combat the centralized systems within different secret combinations that work to take over governments, monetary systems, and really systems in general that are focused around technology. Technology is a portion of what can actually help to offset some of the issues that are happening, but there's a lot more to it. And it really starts with each of us as individuals, our own hearts, our own minds, our own spirits, and those are really important parts of this before we really dig into all the details around tech. Yes, there's technology. Yes, there's money. Yes, there's economies. Yes, there's laws, but really us as spiritual beings understanding the purpose of why we're here and what we're doing are really big important keys. And even some of these secret combinations, they're also spirits in physical bodies. And so it's important to kind of remember that. These different secret combinations, they work within different ecosystems, some private, some public. This last week, you've seen kind of a spat between two public entities, namely Elon Musk and Trump. We won't dig into the details unless you want to. My perspective is there's a lot of facade that's going on. And some things that actually happened just within the last 15, 20 minutes. I don't have enough details on it to dig into it intelligently here, but it's a continuing to kind of unfold. But a lot of them, they basically work with different ecosystems. And you're seeing some of the things with different riots and different things that are happening. Like I said, today's June 10th, supposedly on the 14th. There's supposed to be an element of climaxes with these different riots around at least the United States of America. We're starting to see some of them in the LA area, which I personally grew up with and I remember some of the riots that were there and some of the realities. And the bottom line is we don't need to live in fear if we can see what's really going on. And that's a portion of what we want to focus on within this digital world is transparency and really a trust-based environment where humanity can come together and operate in peace and in their own accountability within choices too, which we'll talk a lot about. So understanding these secret combinations, how they work in private and public, and then really how decentralization plays a role to be able to combat some of the realities that humanity is vexed with. And it creates an opportunity for us to choose in the future. Whereas right now everything's being centralized, and when I say everything, a majority of things. There are a lot of wonderful projects that are actually truly focusing on decentralization, but the goal is to be able to get those to align. For those that are not aware, you basically get an encrypted key or 12 words that basically it's a cryptographic key that's a private key that you link to your body, and then there's derived keys that come from it. That's the value of the digital world, and it brings the physical world and the digital world together. So the way that it works is you've got trustless based identity that's owned by the individual, derived keys that is also owned by the individual for everything that they do. And this makes it so artificial intelligence and machine learning can't follow them as time goes on. So for instance, when you open a bank account or when you go to a different doctor or when you get a different job or when you do different things, you use similar numbers, whether it's your phone number, whether it's a social security number. And I know there's people from all around the world, from Arizona or from New Zealand, Australia, Canada, Mexico, and social security numbers are not there. Maybe it's an IRD number, etc. But the point is within centralized systems, they've used these different identifiers, and some of them are a simple thing like a phone number or an email address. But with the triangulation of your name, your date of birth, and then the combination of these different elements, it's easy to triangulate. So The payments and the identity basically are coming together with centralized systems. In a decentralized world, with the digital world, they're actually private. So you can have real world transactions with private capabilities within the digital world. We're going to talk about some of the advancements within the exchanges. The phones, the homes, the autos, and the community continue to advance. For instance, the homes are well over 820 million in orders now. I know this only says 700, but they're starting to ramp up nicely. And there's some other options within the auto environment, but those are really not the core priority today. The exchanges and getting those live is really what the driver is currently. So we're going to go through some of the different advances. Remember, by the end of 2025, the goal is to have 5 different exchanges that are all purely decentralized exchanges, but working within different governance ecosystems focused on different things. Some currencies, some equities, some commodities, some crypto, and then some reward systems. And the goal is to have all of those eventually be integrated together with different systems. So we're seeing the digital world here. One thing that's amazing that's happened this last week is there's a whole new version 2 update for the whole back end of the digital world. So I'll go ahead and drop out of this and jump into this. Actually, it's not there. It is over here. I'm going to go ahead and log out of here. So if you want to test it, the way to be able to go about testing it is, whoa, what did I just do? I think I'm still, yeah. So you can go to the digital world website, click on member login, and then you're going to click here. Now, I had a gentleman earlier today say, hey, I tried to do this and it didn't work, and I don't know why it didn't work. iPhone users are just so used to using their camera and scanning this. By the way, Wally, if you could remind a task for the developers to forward, if they use a wallet, it pops up a URL that points to a landing page that allows them to download ClearLife or Digital Life or whatever the Life app is respective to who they are or what they're doing. So it doesn't just get them some form of an error. So you use your Life app to actually log in. Now, what we just did was we just logged into an environment where you can get certifications, registrations, you can start businesses, and it uses those derived keys through the same type of process to basically become private, if you will. So this is one of the differences around how the digital world enables a totally different environment than what Bitcoin was originally intended to do, and how it's not only fast in real time, but it actually is truly private. So this derived key, as you can see here, is actually a derived key for a particular organization that can be created. Now, some of the things that you'll see, there's actually going to be some additional things inside of these environments, such as bonding and others, which we'll go through in the future. But the point being is there's a system that's being upgraded and maintained within that environment. And at the same time, there's actually environments where there's going to be some integration with some existing features around the exchanges. And we'll go through some of what those are here. So for instance, this is the Utah Gold Exchange. And you can actually see within that environment different cryptographic based engines, whether it's on a buy sell book or whether it's on a chart of exchanging with different trading pairs, or whether it's just a ability to actually purchase or swap different assets. One of the other things that's actually advanced this last week, and it's just rudimentary, but I think it's important for you to see, and I'm going to jump down to this, is basically the ability to actually make a purchase. Now, many of you have asked for a long time, when is it going to be available? And this is one of the first times I personally have actually seen it, and it's finally starting to be materialized. This is still in a test environment, but you'll actually be able to see. This particular use case is on the Kingdom of Hawaii, and what you'll see here is the ability to actually purchase within the app. Here we go. So what you're looking at is a click to purchase. Let's say you want to purchase a certain amount of native. It shows you what it is in USD. The exchange rates would be there. You could actually either pay with a link or pay with a card, and you put in your card name, the date, the actual the CSV, or what they call a private key, zip code, and processes. This is North America only today, but you can kind of see how this actually works. Payment complete, and then you'll see the asset actually gets dropped in, and you'll also know that it's a private-based transaction. Notice how it didn't link a name to an actual transaction. Now, this only works for transactions that are under 10,000 US dollars per transaction. So that's important to note. Yeah, so that's a massive advancement. So for those of you that have been asking and wondering, well, we're finally making advancements on that front as well. So thank you for your patience and your time. Last week we went through some interesting stuff based around, and there's some key individuals on this call with us as well. So if we do dig into some of the topics, but based around what we call a basket for digital. So a digital basket that represents a type of coin, so to speak, that will be in the digital world. And it represents different assets that are combined with others. And really, it's a simple way to be able to hedge against inflation and some of the issues that are out there in the market. Before I say anything else, Adam, do you want to provide any kind of context or history or maybe examples here or what you're seeing?
Keep going, Michael. Yeah, we're just taking
Okay.
questions as they come, as people assimilate the information. Yeah, all good.
Okay, so I'll go through this a little bit and just kind of explain to people what this is. So this starts May of 2025 with a basket of assets. So you can kind of see 100% here. And then when you look at it from Q1, Q2, or from January to July, you basically see a gain. Okay, so we're going to look at this over a whole period of time, all the way. So it's about 18 months. When you look at from an IRR, so that's an internal rate of return around how the time value of money is calculated. This is about a 31% IRR, which is 31% per month in gross or gain over a period. So there's a lot of logic, and really when you look at it, I haven't personally seen, for me, I was before I started the first centralized business, which was called Direct Point in 2000. I worked with a company named Calculated Research and Technology, which is a wonderful company still in business in Crankin. We grew that from less than 100,000 over 10 million in revenue with less than a dozen people. And when we did it, we made a bunch of money and we put it into mutual funds. And mutual funds was really the first exposure that I was kind of thrown into. Well, okay, if you want to get in the stock market so that you can retire, which is really the mention that they say, put the money in and then hope that it does well. And so I put it into a conservative mutual fund, and then you kind of just pay attention to it and watch it. Well, when I went to start the new business, Direct Point, in 2000, 5 years later, we had amassed some funds in there. And so we paid fees to get those funds out and then put it into an endeavor that I, as an individual, actually had some ownership in and control of, instead of investing in public markets. Well, to make a long story short, this is the same type of thing as a mutual fund, but it also acts as a real-time transactional based asset, kind of like a currency. And that there's a forward-looking comment that was just made there, because we can't really say that we're building currencies in the type of environment that we're in. But today I met with some wonderful three men that actually live down in Puerto Rico that were here in Utah today. And all three of them had Hawaiian Life downloaded and then sent them some assets in real time, all within probably 3 minutes. So three apps come down. Well, one app was already down. And then basically being able to transfer back and forth. And the point that I'm driving at is it was real time, just like a currency. And the lights start going on when people start using this. So not only is it a form of a basket / mutual fund, but also has the ability to actually act as a form of a value exchange in real time. And when you start pairing that with other assets, there may be a whole nother future that can be seen. Now, some of the folks that are streaming this, you're probably only seeing half of them. So I'll read some of them out. Gold, silver, platinum, copper, aluminum, BTC, also known as Bitcoin, coffee, cocoa, wheat, corn, and then some currencies, USD, Ethereum, Great Britain pound, euro, Canadian dollar, Australian dollars. And then there's some other things. One of the questions that we had last week was really around folks that wanted to look at other assets that could actually go into these before we lock them down. Some of the things that came up was independent of Clear, there's actually a life app that ties to life insurance policies. So these are whole life insurance policies where people basically get paid out before they die, so they can have the benefit of the insurance policy it's not a variable universal life. It's a whole life that gets paid out by a third party. Then the third party basically is an administrator to fund it until they pass away. And it really is a beautiful vehicle. So Adam, if we could discuss that one, that would be valuable. We also discussed many others, but the goal is to have an all-inclusive kind of conversation where people can actually say, hey, what about this? And the nice thing is it can be included, but it can be included in other types of percentages. And the percentages and the asset types are really important when it comes to this. Now, this is not investing advice. I am personally a technologist, not an economics individual, but I can tell you that some of the folks that are on this, not only did they run systems similar to this, but also progenitors. So prior, family, it's a trade that has been something that has been really honed. And by the way, also, Adam, remind me to talk to you about Cody as well. So different conversation. But if anyone has any thoughts or comments on this, you're welcome to it. Otherwise, we'll just continue to kind of provide updates as progress is realized. So we'll go ahead and open it up now. Thoughts or comments, feedback? If not, we can jump to there's a couple of other topics. So. I know this might be a topic that is difficult to understand, or at least get your head around, but it's just one asset that would trade on the exchanges and be a basket of assets that basically provide a form of stability for people that want to come in and say, I don't know. I have a lot of people that just say, what do I do? I see the dollar collapsing. I see money. Like this last week, we had some additional funding bills that went through. We've got spats between Musk and Trump going around spending or not spending. What's the truth? We've got the U.S. that comes out that says, hey, any child after this date, we're going to put $1,000 aside and then watch it grow. Canada's doing something similar with a limited amount with $350. But if you have a comment on this, we can go through it. If not, I'll jump over to other topics.
I have a question, Michael.
Go ahead.
So exactly for the reasons that you just mentioned, the US dollar, slowly losing its value, and, inflation, all the price of everything going up. So, I'm sorry, I don't know anything about the stock market. I don't know anything about mutual funds. But would that be something that could be interesting for me to invest in, to purchase, some, says here that DGL USD price per coin 65. I'm assuming that's 65 US dollars.
Yeah, that's 65 US dollars. And what this is doing, it's looking at the history. Back in January 2024, it was 65. Now it's 104. So it gives you a price point looking back based upon these same types of classes of assets. So, us giving you a guidance on investing, we can't do that, especially non-accredited type folks. But accredited folks, this is definitely a conversation that can be had. Non-accredited folks, the conversation goes to purchasing gold and getting stable that way. Gold has a world standard around spot, and it's going to continue to be accretive. At least it has been over time. But you can come out of the U.S. dollar and go into gold and curb that type of liability. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So, okay, but this is so here. This one coin would represent a basket of all these assets on the left-hand side, correct?
You got it. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
so
what
what's
this.
the difference? So what's the difference between me buying a gold coin or one of these a digital coin, one of these coins?
When it comes down to the particular asset of 35% of this asset is made up of gold, you're hedging the risk or diversifying the risk with other assets, such as other metals, silver, platinum, copper, aluminum. And there's also, Adam has really done a good job of teaching me around the velocity or speed of how cash flow works. And, even during the last call, coffee was brought up. I personally don't drink coffee, but it's something that's continually desired by humanity, and it's continually being grown and then used and paid for. So that's a good example of something that is actually consumed, if you will. For me, I like, coconut
Right.
water. So coconuts, or, it's a commodity. So again, commodities, equities, currencies, crypto, and reward systems can all be made within this ecosystem. So it can really, for instance, with the crypto stuff, it can wrap certain assets. So other thoughts or comments or continued of that? Okay. So next we'll talk a little bit about what we've touched on in the past around different assets within the digital world and how they actually get marketed to drive awareness to gain adoption. Now, some people may think, oops, I don't want to do that. What I want to do is this. Some people may think, well, you just throw it out there and it just sticks. Well, that's not necessarily. We've spent 15 years or well over a decade building these different types of systems. So methodically thinking through how we can actually come together and build a future that is stable for humanity is very, very imperative. And what I'm going to talk about is a massive, I think, opportunity and blessing and a whole heck of a lot of work. But it's something that this body needs to be aware of. Why? Because it ties to the digital world actually opening up a conference center that has a physical location, and the conference center creating a type of exchange and bank that is the future digital systems. And it doesn't just start or stop here. It continues to go on around the world. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to pause here. I'm going to jump over to a document that is actually tied to an agreement. And I'm going to walk through and just kind of explain it to you. Okay. So this is actually a part of, and actually what I'm going to do is show you something first. I'm going to show you this map. Oops, I don't want to do that. So this is actually a portion. So this is over 1,000 acres of land. And this is one portion that we're talking about. Taking a physical conference center, homes, parks, executive suites, offices, restaurants, stores, what they call a tavern, which is, I don't drink alcohol, but this is where, I guess, the digital cowboys actually would drink that. You drink alcohol in tavern, but that's not what it's about. It's about really bringing together a community that is actually already in existence. And some dear friends of ours actually dropped $50 million this last week and bought all of this, just all of it. And then came to me and said, and this was actually after last week. So last week, we were actually in some new office facilities. I won't be specific as to where, same place I'm based today, but basically we were looking at building, because here in Utah, for those of you that can't see, I'll go ahead and show out the window. This is actually the Olympics right there. I don't know if you can see it, but over in those mountains is actually where the Olympics are actually held. They're coming here again. So this isn't just, a brand new time, but literally right there, I can literally see. So the Olympics are coming to Utah. Utah has amazing gold laws and silver laws that they've already passed. One, they're in the original constitution of the state of Utah. Two, they've actually passed decentralized autonomous organization laws. And so what that does is it creates a real environment where a digital ranch like this could actually be realized, where it's truly private, it's truly independent, it's truly governed by a decentralized autonomous organization from voting or land management or asset management or title management or even rewards or adoption. So imagine an environment that literally is self-sustaining. You've got power infrastructure, you've got homes, almost 200 homes already there and more to be built. You've got people that are very aligned with independence and really being free is really what it comes down to. But imagine if we put auctions, so decentralized autonomous auctions, And then imagine if we actually took the Deal Flow show that we started down there in Florida with a wonderful other team, but instead of being the show, it was actually the Deal Flow Forum. And what it does is what it would do, here's a glimpse into kind of, imagine a bunch of really good, competent judges / investors that actually put their own funds in. And then you've also got AI, and then you've also got the audience of the world that can vote. But imagine a stage that, you could put 5,000 people in front of, or basically driving awareness for these different projects to be able to enable it to come to life. So this is the same environment that the Sundance Film Festival was originated in for the last 20, 30 years. I don't even know how long. But it's actually moving over to Colorado. But what if a portion of it went digital and stayed here? That's kind of the piece of what we're talking about. These guys are funny. We actually had a wonderful birthday yesterday, but they put in here some marketing stuff. So this is just an example of what could be a brand new community, a digital center, a digital stage, a digital tavern, and I'll kind of walk you through some of the parts and pieces. This is one of the stages. So large body, imagine this being for 20 years, we sign a deal and or even acquire the whole thing, which is a whole nother conversation and massive blessing, but different conversation. Imagine this whole thing becomes a stage and a center for the digital world, not just any old stage and not just any old center, but it's driven by transactions that are in the digital world. They're decentralized. The payments, everything is all paid in a decentralized ability. But what if you could actually have an ATM that popped out gold or dollars or a card with USD on it or a digital payment, and they were all interchangeable, and it actually started right here in the foyer? Imagine teams that could actually come from around the world and work within these different offices. By the way, this is all fabricated up. But imagine if you could have folks from Ethereum or some of the Bitcoin fundamentalists or Solana or Cardano, or wonderful folks that truly, the ones that really care about decentralization. What if we could all come and work together in a way that was independent? It's not just pushing a clear agenda. It's pushing a decentralized agenda. Literally, you have wonderful different bodies of ecosystems that are set up for communication. Imagine an event once a month that bridges the connection that's happening from around the world. For instance, many may not know this, but Wyoming was the first decentralized autonomous organization laws that were passed, but it actually was 80% of the people within Utah that were helping to facilitate that. Amelia, she's actually the county commissioner in Utah County. Sean Reyes, by the way, they had a bomb scare today, and all their offices are shut down. I don't know if it's tied to some of the riots, but different conversation. Sean Reyes is the Attorney General of the state of Utah. He was there, very influential. And this was all for Wyoming, and then Utah next. In my opinion, Utah is a very, very special place because of not only its currency laws, with gold and silver being looked at as currency and how they actually back it, but also their laws around decentralized autonomous organizations that are digitally based. So imagine, you've got different bars or restaurants, and I don't drink, so I don't really tie to that, but imagine stages and there's some amazing groups that have actually already played here. It's not that old of a facility, but I really believe that this is a massive blessing that's put in our lap. And we're going to know some key things tomorrow at 11 o'clock Mountain Time. So time right now is about 6, almost 7 o'clock Mountain Time. So we're coming up on the ability to actually do this. And the individual behind it was like, Mike, you got to stand on this stage and you got to tell the world. He's an individual that he's like, I'm so old that I don't know anything about what you're doing, but I know that it's the future. And I know that you're supposed to tell the world on this stage. This stage is the same stage that all this stuff comes from. And it's not about me. It's actually the opposite. We're supposed to help folks to be able to tell their own story. And I'm going to walk through what that could actually look like. This is this last week's in memories. For those of you that are not aware, We basically document this, not just on other social platforms, but we document it within what we call the culture page on the clear.co.com site. So these are some of the different things. What you're looking at here is the ability to actually put a spotlight, again, not on me, but on individuals that are over different projects that want to focus on decentralization. So imagine instead of the Deal Flow show, which is different investors, different founders in different locations, this is basically one location, and it's all, the stage is amazing, the way that it's built out, what it can do. But imagine if we could actually format, and have different investors come to one location with different founders of different decentralized ecosystems. And then it can tie into normal businesses. So people can just say, hey, I have a digital business. So I started it in the digital world. I have a digital asset and I actually want to sell it. And you can basically pitch it. So imagine the power that comes from people actually being able to find a real audience that want to get involved. And you've got, the ability to actually have a localized place where these folks can actually come together. And it's not just the digital stage, but the digital center that it sits in. And then the ability for people to come and collaborate together. Think about it like an incubator for decentralized technologies, or even centralized systems that want to develop with decentralized technologies and approaches. So these are just some of the things that have happened this last week. By the way, on the exchanges, there's been a new standard that's adopted. 1 hour, 1 day, 1 week, 1 month, 1 year, and all for the digital assets will actually be having trading pairs that go through that. This goes through 4 different exchanges and looks at Coinbase, Kraken, Binance in the digital world. As we're lighting up these different exchanges, we're finding massive competitive advantages and barriers to entry for the digital world. And yeah, this is another thing. This is actually taking leftover wood, burning it, turning it into heat and power, and then future elements of carbon, which we'll show you here in a second. You can actually see these things are all basically the future of some crazy, crazy value. There's actually 5 revenue streams in here. I personally don't have the rights to go through the details of what that is, but the combination of this with that other environment, I believe, takes the potential for what a ranch is to actually turn it into a town. And the ranch right now is a private ranch, but imagine a private town that is digital and decentralized. And as we're rolling out these different systems, not just for countries and kingdoms, but we actually organically build them from the ground up, that's 100% digital. And using things such as, I watched a Russian movie last night. It was interesting. It's called Fire. It's a documentary. I usually don't watch things that are not real or have some story to them, but it's about basically a crew that goes in and they're trying to put out fires. And if we really understand fire management, if we just go in and get the old timber that's fallen down, this particular individual that his hand is shown here, he's built amazing high-end, wonderful homes with no nails. Like literally you can build whole homes with just wood and the value that comes from that. But there's leftover wood. What happens with the leftover wood? And that's kind of what this turns into. It's called char. So it's a form of carbon, but there's massive benefits from it. As a matter of fact, the governor of Utah is engaging here and possibly coming out this next week. And just it's a future. There's a big future there. And when you combine them all together and you provide a spotlight for people that are actually doing these different things, I think that there's a future there that is just absolutely beautiful. So imagine a digital stage that has the ability for people to talk about things. And it's not just businesses that they're building, but maybe it's a car, or maybe it's a piece of land, or maybe it's a pie. Who knows? You can auction things off in different ways. People can have voices, people can vote in different ways, and they can fund it in different ways in real time. So that's kind of it's a concept right now. It's a vision, it's a belief, but it's an environment that it can help people that want to make it through the storm that's coming. Because we're talking about the biggest financial shift, I believe, that not only in our lifetime, but in many, many historical lifetimes. And, people said, nah, I don't believe it. I don't see it. And it took them a decade plus to start adopting Bitcoin. But since then, at least in the last 15 years, you've seen over $2 trillion in value. And trillion, many folks don't understand how big of a number that is, but it's a real number, especially when you're talking about small assets coming in and then taking time for bigger assets to move over. But I really think that there's a lot of potential. Now, is it done? No. The gold side of it, there's solid tracks there. Wonderful. This is another example of great organizations that are built here in Utah. Goldbacks and some of the things they're doing. And then there's infrastructure, really good infrastructure, stable environments. And then how do you actually exchange those types of things, and how do they all come together? So these are systems that are being stood up. And at the same time of them being stood up digitally, there's systems that are being acquired and purchased physically that could then dovetail into it in a very, very disruptive way. I mean, it's just massive. So this is an example of an ATM that can pop out digital dollars, or it can pop out US dollars on a credit card, or it can pop out, imagine, goldbacks or things like that. So this is actually where I'm currently sitting. It's a wonderful part of the world. A lot of affluency here, as well as a lot of change. So at the same time, having affluency and people with a willing heart to change creates a compelling event, I believe, that is pretty disruptive for humanity. Yeah. So with that being said, any thoughts, comments, feedback?
Michael, I have a question.
Yeah.
Just going back to the transaction that you did in the Hawaii ecosystem, is that's awesome, by the way. Thank you, everyone, who worked on that. But I saw you put in the card details. Is the card details any Visa, MasterCard, or debit card, or is it the one that we've been talking about with the digital world?
Are you talking about this here?
Yeah, when the transaction is made, is the card by any MasterCard or Visa card when we transact, or is it with the actual Clay United
good
card that we get?
That's a really, really good question. The card topic is actually something that is currently in active development, but it is not tied to this topic. But what I'll show you here is actually really interacting with the actual digital assets. So in this particular use case, somebody's buying native with USD, so dollars. They're purchasing it with a credit card, and then the native asset actually shifts to them in real time. That's what everybody's been asking for years. It finally.
Oh, okay, I see now. Okay, that makes sense. That's awesome.
Isn't that cool? I mean,
yes,
it really.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that. That's very awesome.
It,
That's awesome.
it really is.
I hope everybody understands that. Like, that's awesome.
I've never seen anything like that happen, and in a decentralized way. I mean, that is just amazing. And there's actually another interface that I can show you, but it hasn't been scrubbed of KYC type details that are private. But what it does is it actually links the public key. So it does in the metadata. It doesn't actually. So we know the public key on what it was with each transaction. So there's an accounting standpoint, but there's transparency and privacy all at the same time. That's huge. It's really, really huge. So we're linking.
Okay, so how long? I mean, I don't know. How long do you think that this will be kind of like in the test stages for? Do you think like maybe years?
No. We want to push it out of test this month, June 2025.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
The next question would be, well, where can it be conducted? And I actually think, this same system actually does customers all around the world. So it's got a lot of history to it. I would think it's not just the zip code scares me and says it's a limited thing to the US, but I know that the same system actually has customers in like 150 different countries. So I know it it probably has a global approach. I also know that there's some wires that have to be sent and other things like that. But good question. Yeah, and it's nice to see people actually seeing. We talked about this years ago, or at least long ago, and it's actually finally here. So, yeah. Other thoughts or comments on anything that we've gone over, whether it's the payments or the exchanges or the basket of assets? I mean, these are all really big topics, or the potential to actually, pull out our own little conference center to actually start building and marketing the digital world from. The digital world has been in a process of development for so long, it's time to actually start marketing it. The phones, the nodes, the assets, the different assets, wrapping, there's so much to it. So, yeah. Thoughts or comments? Questions? You guys are quiet today, huh? Well, that's about all the topics, even though there's some pretty huge topics that we have to go through. Some of the other stuff are just, continued from things that we've already worked on. So with that being said, if there's no other topics, we'll go ahead and convene. I actually saw, if maybe I didn't, I think I saw Billy on. Yeah, Billy. Hi, Billy. Just want to say howdy. If you can hear me.
Hey, brother, I'm just trying to get my camera on it.
It's all
There we
good.
go.
It's all good.
There we go. There we go. Hey, guys. Hey, team. Good to see everybody. Danielle, good to see you. Becca in Australia. Mike, good to see you. And what an amazing display you just gave us just then. I'm excited as Becca. It's amazing. Well done.
Continued progress. There was a gal that was on yesterday's call or last week's call that she had a sense of urgency about her that was actually true and correct. Man, I'm usually one that's always pushing hard with that crazy sense of urgency, but there's a point where it's just being consistent over a period of time and pushing and making a change as much as you can, and then letting other people pick it up too. Letting other people contribute. Like this gentleman that he just says, Mike, I'm in my 70s. An hour ago, we just spent $50 million. I'm coming to your house. We're going to show you this big place, and you're going to spend the day with me, and you're going to learn this, and you're going to get on the stage, and you're going to tell people about what this is, what you built, because it's important. And it's like, that's just, you can't even think that up or imagine those types of things up. It's just huge blessings all over the place. And I know all of us have, in our own little sphere of influence and our own little lives, we have those types of things, but I think it's important to actually recognize them and to have some gratitude for them. And yesterday I had a key birthday in life. And I would also say I have massive gratitude in the basic things of life. Just another year, so yeah.
Oh, happy birthday, brother. Bless you heaps.
Thank you.
It's definitely the whole issue of what's going on with Project Stargate in the US with the Larry Ellison program that Trump has endorsed. It's bringing all of these concerns more and more to the front that ordinary everyday people are going to have to confront and deal with and wake up that this global surveillance state is maturing very, very quickly. And so, it's not the technology that's the issue. The issue is what the technology can be used for in terms of nefarious purposes. And so having these options in the digital world is incredibly important. And I tell you what, and I've said this to you before, Mike, and I was glad that you said it's now time to get about marketing and getting the message out, because I know loads and loads of people that would get into using this system as a way of digital transacting without being in the central surveillance netscape, if you will. So yeah, it's incredible.
It's interesting that you mentioned Stargate, because that's actually what this whole digital world is about, counterbalance too. And it's sad to say, well, we've got to worry about Larry Ellison. He really, I won't make comments on a live environment, but the digital world is a direct counterbalance to what Stargate represents and is doing, period. And you're spot on by seeing it. You know, these cities, these private cities, are a direct counterbalance to what the 15-minute cities and lockdown cities are all about. The ability to have an identity and say, you know what, I can validate who I am and what I am. And by the way, I'm going to put a link inside of the chat here for those that have 15, 20 minutes to go through it. There's some cuss words in it. That's why I'm not going to air it here. But there's a gal behind some things that talks a lot of truth. And I think it's important for you to at least realize it. Billy, I know that it's, you know, in your world, you're probably already in the middle of it and understand it. But she does a really good job of explaining some things with some expletives. But and what's interesting is where she used to work and who her family is or was. So I'll go ahead and drop that in as we wrap up today. But Billy, thank you for checking in. It's been a long time. We miss you. Kia ora.
Yeah. Same. Likewise, brother. I've been feeling it. Don't worry. Just for everyone's update, I'm in the middle of developing a housing, significant housing project for the area that I live in for impoverished people. It's called an affordable housing development that I'm converting my land holdings here. So I'm dressed in farming gear today because I've been out on the farm doing stuff with it. But to try and help people get into healthy, affordable homes that are off the grid, by the way. So they won't be on the grid. And so this digital decentralization issue could be something that we can pick up on in this mini village that I'm building, Mike. And it'd be good if we could turn that into one of these private villages, wouldn't that be neat?
Exactly.
So that you know. So I want to talk to you more about that. I sent you the scheme plan the other week to have a look at.
Okay.
So it's
that.
wicked. Yeah, it's good.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Is that link in there? I'll love to see that.
Yeah, what I'll do is I'm going to play a video real fast, and while it's going through, I'll go ahead and find a link and just drop it in here. I appreciate all of you attending and just for being you, and for whether you're physically with us today and live. I know that there's a lot of folks in different time zones that can't join us, or you're listening real time and just being a part of what's happening. I know that it may start small and there may not be a lot of volume and it may not happen as fast as we want, but it is happening, and there is an alternative, just like we're seeing the counterbalance to that with Stargate and 15-minute cities and CBDCs. There has to be a counterbalance to them because we're here to choose. Humanity is here to choose. And with that being said, we'll drop and watch a little thing on the Clear Community.
The internet. It's where most of us live these days. Connecting, sharing, buying, expressing our ideas, all on somebody else's terms. Our lives, our connections, our most brilliant ideas are on a server somewhere, treated like cold hard data to be bought and sold. Do we have digital privacy? Digital security? Even the assurance that our own data will remain ours. It's time for a new internet experience. Actually, it's time for a new internet. An internet that protects you. A safer way to connect, share, and buy while not being tracked or hacked. One that puts you in the driver's seat. An internet that you claim you're part of. An internet you control, where your identity is not only safe, it is the key to what you see, what sees you, what you exclude, and what you are compensated for. It's time for you to own your internet. Welcome to ClearWeb, where you are the key to the experience you want.
Thank you, everybody. We will see you next week. I do have a funeral. A grandfather passed away, but I think we can still juggle it and make it all work. If not, we'll let you know before the day of. And for those of you that are actually live, the link has been shared, so feel free to grab that and watch it as we convene here. Much love, everyone. And Billy, since you're on, would you close us with a prayer by chance?
Of course I would. be a great honor to do that.
Thank you.
Okay, bow our heads. Father, we thank you for this opportunity to be together, people from different walks of life and different experiences coming together, because we know that we are dealing in such serious times right now. We know that there's a strong move to rob us all of our God-given personal liberty and our sovereignty to decide for ourselves and our families. I just want to commend everybody here into your care, Lord, and I pray that you'd guide us, lead us to your truth as contained in your will and as per your character. And I just pray for everyone, Lord, that regardless of where we are at in life, that we will still seek to do our best to help others and to be a light in this dark world. In Jesus' loving and mighty name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Goodbye, everyone. Kia ora.
Take care, everyone. Kia ora.
Adam,
Thanks, Michael.
Bye, Beck. Adam, thanks.
Michael.
See you.
Bye, Sarah.
Thank you, Mike.
Susan. Bye, Danielle. Adam, thanks for all you do, bud. Really appreciate you, even though we can't talk.
Yeah,
we haven't
thank you.
talked much.
Thank you, Michael. Cheers.
Talk to you. Kia ora.